If you look up Pinocchio on IMDb, you will find not just Disney's Pinocchio from 1940 and its inevitable live-action remake, but hundreds of thousands of Pinocchio movies. There's a Pinocchio anime, a Pinocchio horror movie, a Pinocchio sci-fi movie, a Geppetto spin-off, a Pinocchio Korean miniseries. Since the dawn of cinema, Pinocchio has been a chameleon of sorts, a template to be reused and abused throughout film history. Pinocchio has transcended all genres, all nationalities, all mediums, all categorization, all space and time. So naturally you might be wondering how. How is Netflix making a Pinocchio movie? Because Disney owns everything, right? Everything except Pinocchio. The original Pinocchio story is in the depraved territories known as the public domain. So anybody and everybody can make a movie about Pinocchio, and everybody did. There are no strings on copyright law. The Pinocchio story has been subject to a lot of twisted interpretation. The potential for Pinocchio has been realized in every form, and almost none of them are good. There's like 3 good ones out of 32. So in honor of perhaps the greatest living fantasy director making his Pinocchio debut today, I watched every single one of them. Pinocchio. It's been more than 140 years since Carlo Collodi first published The Adventures of Pinocchio as a serial in a magazine and then later a book. The original story is a dark moral children's fable, following Pinocchio, a mischievous and somewhat cruel sentient puppet boy whose desires get him into all sorts of terrible adventures until he finally does the right thing and fulfills his goal of becoming a real boy. The book was successful while Collodi was still alive, making him one of the best-known authors in Italy. It is currently the 3rd most translated book in the world. Collodi died in 1890, 5 years before movies were even invented. He never got to see a feature film adaptation of his story or the massive effect it had on popular culture. He lived late enough to see the success of his creation and died early enough to not see the atrocities it has spawned. For more than a century, Pinocchio's goal has been to become a real boy.
A real boy! A real boy! A real human.
I have a goal too.
You have a dream?
Yes, Tybalt, I have a special, most treasured dream.
It's kind of embarrassing, so don't roast me too hard in the comments, guys, okay? I want to become a real puppet. As Pinocchio ventures to become flesh and bone, I will become wood and string. Released in the same year as Ronald Reagan, the first Pinocchio movie is an Italian silent film and the closest I've come to experiencing hallucinogenic drugs. The version that I found on YouTube is accompanied by the constant pulse of this dark, synthy score. Setting the perfect atmosphere for its demented subject matter. Just about 5 seconds after Pinocchio first becomes sentient, he's already a menace to society at large, freaking out, running around, breaking everything, and getting in trouble with the law, which is honestly an underreaction if he knew what he'd be going through. This movie subverts traditional story structure, and is instead a cycle of Pinocchio getting himself in and out of some of the shittiest situations someone could ever find themselves in, including being chased by an angry mob, getting his feet burned off, falling into a bear trap, chained to a dog kennel, sentenced to a life in jail by a town of anthropomorphic animals, nearly drowning, shot out of a cannon, hung from a tree, nearly killed by Geppetto with an axe, and of course, turning into a donkey. And we're only just getting started. Movies were a mistake. This is the only Pinocchio movie that I haven't watched. Because I can't. I can't because it doesn't exist. And if it did exist, it would have changed the course of film history. Here's what happened. In 1935, politician Alfredo Rocco, who served under Benito Mussolini, commissioned the CAIR to make Italy's first animated movie, an adaptation of The Adventures of Pinocchio. They had a substantial budget of 1 million lira and a scheduled release date of fall 1936. They never met that release date or any release date. They ended up running out of money, leaving 150,000 drawings and 2,500 feet of film, which would have lasted an hour and 45 minutes, unused. According to animator Mameli Barbara, from the start, their production of the movie was doomed to failure, lacking organization, supervision, and essential equipment. What's rough is it wouldn't have only been Italy's first animated movie, but also the first cell animated movie. The process that was used throughout every Disney film and most animated movies until the early 80s. The CAIR was beat by The Big D, the first cell animated feature film being Snow White in 1937, a year after the scheduled release date of The Adventures of Pinocchio. All that's left of the film is its script and a few stills, and I can't tell if it's a shame that it never got released, because despite these stills looking cool as hell, like a 1930s Betty Boop cartoon, the movie might have definitely probably had fascist undertones to it. Pinocchio is a lot like Picasso. They're both European, their names are kind of similar, and they've got their phases, their periods. Throughout history, there are stretches of time that feature distinctive types of Pinocchio movies. What we are about to enter is the Pinocchio Trinational War. With this movie begins half a century's long war between three countries in their quest to dominate the Pinocchio film market. In the following movies, you'll find that each country has a distinctive approach to the Pinocchio story. Italy does faithful adaptations of the original novel by Carlo Collodi. Russia does faithful adaptations of the 1936 Russian novel The Golden Key by Alexei Tolstoy. And the US does whatever the fuck it wants. This movie, The Golden Key, is the first of many Russian Pinocchio attempts, each one better than the last. There are 3 Russian Pinocchio movies in total. Or should I say, Buratino movies. Buratino is Italian for puppet and Russian for Pinocchio and universal for little brat. Since the version I watched on YouTube has no subtitles, I kinda just guessed what the characters were saying.
Я найду мешки с золотом. Но тогда вы будете богаче самого Тарабарского короля. А как я заживу? Я пошлю к чертям мой кукольный театр.
Fortunately, some scenes break language barriers and make perfect sense to anyone, like this one. The one thing I did understand was how cool it is that this movie mixes live action with stop motion animation. It's an ingenious solution to the Pinocchio problem, which has plagued every Pinocchio movie, and I'll elaborate on later. For now, let's take a look at childbirth. Most Pinocchio movies include a scene where Geppetto carves his wooden son.
Meow! Meow! Watching meow! That's what do say!
Sometimes Geppetto's carving skills are insane. Alright, check this out. He's got a log and a knife, right? He just took off half the log. Look at this next piece. What the fuck? Sometimes they're inhuman. But despite the undeniable skills, my favorite carving scene is from 1996's The Adventures of Pinocchio, with this beautiful carving montage intercut with really uncomfortable close-ups. I've seen every single goddamn one of these stupid, useless Pinocchio movies, and this is one of the only good ones. It's not only one of the best Pinocchio adaptations, but one of the best Disney movies, and a crowning achievement in animation, voice acting, and humor.
Get me out of here!
It's a funny movie. The humor is timeless because it's inspired by human behavior in this perfectly emphasized delivery. Whether it be the cute self-righteousness of Figaro, the naivety and innocence of Pinocchio, the unfiltered and pure emotions of Geppetto, from his fear to his enthusiasm.
There's cause for a celebration. Music!
It's so good. I love Geppetto. You know what isn't funny? Racism. I don't think Pinocchio is racist, but the humor in Pinocchio always falls flat when it's inspired by nothing but a stereotype. Pinocchio is a Disney movie, from the time when Walt Disney was in charge. Big D wasn't the entertainment conglomerate that it is today. It was an animation studio making some of the most revolutionary and breathtaking animated movies of all time. It's so easy to take Pinocchio for granted, given it's in a catalog that's become a staple of millions of our childhoods, but trust me, this is one of the good ones.
I'm a real boy!
There's cause for a celebration. Пил тебе азбуку и луковицу. Ну, на, ешь, поужинаешь и ложись.
This movie introduces a few new characters to the Pinocchio canon. Pierrot, who sings a song contemplating his suicide. A turtle named Tortilla, and a blue fairy who keeps telling Pinocchio to brush his teeth. Unlike Disney's blue fairy, who, if anything, is a little too forgiving of Pinocchio, saving him and helping him again and again, this blue fairy isn't nearly as helpful.
Ох, какая чушь!
Did she just lay out a rug?
Пациент скорее мертв.
Yeah, I think he's dead. Wait, I think I might have just realized why the blue fairy keeps telling Pinocchio to brush his teeth.
Зато я купил тебе азбуку и луковицу.
It all makes sense now. Whoa, wait, don't go to the next movie. No, I'm sorry. This is Albert. He's a monkey. He's also the first monkey to ever be sent into space, except he never got to space. Albert died of suffocation during the flight and may have actually died before his rocket even launched. This is Albert II. He's a monkey too. He is the first monkey to go to space, surviving a suborbital V2 flight past the Kármán line of 100 kilometers, which designates the beginning of space. Then his parachute failed and he died on impact. This is Pinocchio. He's a sentient wooden puppet. I'm thinking we send him to space. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and follow me on Patreon to Wait. We're getting a signal from our most remote telescope.
Oh my! Get me Washington!
After a surprising turn of events, it looks like the first puppet to be sent to space, Pinocchio, is still alive. Then, just like Iron Man, he fights a giant space whale and sacrifices himself to save Earth.
No way! agafalo! Al ladro! Al ladro! Al ladro!
Across the board, from IMDb to Letterboxd, this is the highest rated Pinocchio adaptation. It is also the most Italian. It's got critical acclaim, cultural authenticity, and a song that got a Crazy Frog remix. We are in the presence of prestige. Every live-action Pinocchio movie has a dilemma, and that is, how are you going to turn a living puppet and a bunch of anthropomorphic animals into something that isn't creepy? This movie solves the Pinocchio problem by leaning into the realism as much as possible. There's no creepy puppet if you just turn him into a boy right away. There's no creepy cricket if you just make the talking cricket a shadow on the wall. There's no creepy donkey transformation if you turn the boys into donkeys off screen and then use real donkeys. Unfortunately, it's a bit tougher to film a real whale, so they had to settle for a DIY whale, which looks,
There, it's done now. You're all finished. Why? Where are you going?
This is the most faithful adaptation to the original book, and the movie where Pinocchio is the most of an asshole.
It's obvious that you only have a head made of wood.
Oh, yes? Well, have this then. That's made of wood, too.
After this evil deed, Pinocchio began to feel hungry.
The best part of this movie is the way that the characters move. They have these artificial movement cycles that are super unnatural. It's poetry in motion. Because of these weird-ass dance moves, the most entertaining part of this movie is the background characters that aren't talking. I cannot decipher what they are supposed to be doing.
That's for sure. If we leave that puppet in his hands, he's capable of breaking it to pieces. That's for sure. If we leave that puppet in his hands, he's capable of breaking it to pieces.
Every animal in this movie can talk, and you never expect it.
I'm drowning! I'm drowning!
Isn't there anyone who can come and rescue me?
Who do you think can rescue you silly fellow?
Who said that?
I said it.
If I've got any complaints with this movie, it's that the morals are too subtle. I don't know what the lessons are.
Children who work hard and help their tired, aging parents in their illnesses and in their unhappiness always deserve great praise and great affection.
Remember the old proverb that says, stolen money will never bear fruit.
Continue to be kind and make other people happy, and you'll be happy too.
This movie ends the Pinocchio War and starts a new era of Pinocchio. Yeah, Disney's version has got some of the best animation ever, but this is the only Pinocchio movie to have a SpongeBob-style theme song. This movie gets away with the weirdness of the source material by fully embracing the weird and then going even further. I especially love my main man Buratino, who is for my money the best live-action Pinocchio. I love how much pride and pure joy this kid has while playing a nuisance. He's a brat, but I want him to get away with whatever shit he pulled. Honorable mentions to the sexy fox, the kids in frog costumes, and Pierrot, who has captured the hearts of Tumblr users all over the world.
Here I am, out of breath again, wondering which way to turn.
This straight-to-TV musical theater Pinocchio starring Broadway star Sandy Duncan is exactly what it needs to be. It captures an old Hollywood sincerity that is lacking from movies today, believing in the glamour, spectacle, and melodrama it serves up, however cheap it is.
You know what I think? I think your reward will be I don't call the police. If I call the police, they put you in jail. You know how much they fine you?
5 gold coins.
That's right. Better me than the police. I keep the coins, you keep your freedom. That's your reward, eh? Well, goodbye. So long. Toodaloo. Smell something nice.
Everything is so over the top and not always in a good way. Each character is a national stereotype.
You look almost like a real little boy, eh?
No school where we're going to, hey lads?
If I open it, he will run away like crazy one.
The performances are all overacted. The costumes are loud and lavish. They got a fucking horse on the stage. How did it not poop everywhere? I loved it more as an antidote to the self-aware humor that's infected modern blockbusters, including some of these Pinocchio movies, than as a movie. There's an art to winking at the audience, and Pinocchio the musical understands that.
Right.
Right.
That's what it's all about, Pinocchio. Having fun. That's where we're going.
That's right, channel your inner weeb because it's time for Pinocchio, the anime. It even has a motherfucking Studio Ghibli cleaning montage. I hate to break it to you, man, but one little bucket of water isn't going to do anything against that big fire. You seriously think... Oh. I mean, don't stop now, keep going. The 80s gives Pinocchio something he's been missing all along. A puppet girlfriend. Pinocchio's Christmas is exactly what the title suggests. Pinocchio and Christmas. Every Pinocchio story beat and every Christmas movie story beat Frankenstein together into a 50-minute TV segment, with the stop motion from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the music from a bad Pinocchio movie, even the deadbeat dad who hates Christmas from every Christmas movie.
Merry Christmas and all that nonsense!
Father!
Now, no time for sentiment. Open your present. I've got 3 whole wonderful minutes to spend with you, then I must be off on affairs of state.
The end result is a big mess.
Santa! Look!
But a good-looking mess. My favorite medium to tell the Pinocchio story has got to be stop-motion animation. Think about it. It's literally puppets coming to life. Also, the little intricate sets are a visual treat. Yet again, unfulfilled potential. Hopefully we get a good stop-motion Pinocchio movie that's widely available on a popular streaming service sometime in the future, and without the Christmas.
It took a puppet to show me what Christmas really is. Merry Christmas, my little ones.
But why would you want a kid?
I know that's something that will never happen, Cricket. I'll always be just a lonely old man. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, this movie's also scored by an 80s rock band.
There you go, there's nothing to it. Oh, Pinocchio, we all know.
I am Dominus. I am lord of all this land.
You're lord of the forest and even Papa's cottage?
I own everything.
Even a multinational pizza chain. In 1985, Filmation, the production company famous for He-Man and infamous for cheap animation practices, had an ambitious plan. They planned to produce a series of 13 animated films under the umbrella title of Filmation's New Classics Collection. The new movies announced were, among others, Snow White and the Seven Dwarf Elves, The Challenge of Cinderella, Bambi, Prince of the Forest, The Son of Sleeping Beauty, The Continuing Adventures of the Jungle Book, Alice Returns to Wonderland, and The New Adventures of Pinocchio. Surprisingly, Disney sued Filmation before production had started on any of them. In the end, only Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night and the Snow White reboot renamed Happily Ever After were produced. Despite winning legally on the grounds that the story was in the public domain, it's clear that the movie has every intention of ripping off the Disney Pinocchio as much as possible in really weird ways. Wait a second, is that Jiminy Cricket? Nah man, it's G. Willikers. Oh my god, it's Honest John and Gideon. No, it's Scalawag and Igor. Stromboli? No, Buratino. Buratino. Really? That's the best they could come up with? Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night is without a doubt the hardest a cartoon has cartooned. There isn't even a split second of silence. It is a constant barrage of sound and movement. Every character is a vehicle for bad jokes, slapstick humor, and sound effects.
Oh my gosh!
There's so many sound effects. Despite cartooning so much, it is definitely not a kid's movie. Did you get nightmares from the donkey scene? What a baby. How about a scene where Pinocchio, as a boy, slowly turns back into a puppet against his will? Was Pleasure Island disturbing to watch as a toddler? How about this? Do you know what Pinocchio needs? A sidekick. Do you know what Pinocchio's sidekick needs? A sidekick. The sidekick needs a sidekick, and what better sidekick than a British stereotype mashed up with a beat? Yeah, I'm not joking, that's literally what he is.
Hog's as thick as Yorkshire pudding, but not half as tasty.
2 years after Pinocchio 2, Filmation shut down entirely. Their experiment failed and took the company down with it. As for Disney, I haven't checked, but I think they're doing okay. I hope you'll find space in your cold, dead heart to forgive me for emulating BuzzFeed, but while I watched this movie, I realized my reaction to each and every new scene was best summarized by a GIF. This one. I was the white man blinking. 964 Pinocchio has been dubbed, among many other things, endurance cinema. It isn't a movie where you sit down and escape for 90 minutes. It is considered a test to see if you'll stand up and leave or endure. It is 90 minutes of vomiting, bleeding, and yelling, holding the record for the longest vomiting scene in a movie. So I'd say don't watch it with your parents or your friends or alone. Just don't watch this movie. What 964 Pinocchio definitely isn't is a Pinocchio movie. Other than the main character being a robot, the movie has got nothing to do with the Pinocchio story. So why did I watch it? I don't know, man. It was Pinocchio in the title. How was I supposed to know?
Like what?
Like what? Well, like how to think and how to read. Even a little dummy like you needs to know how to
love with an open heart for the good.
Every single one of these movies, without fail, has a scene where Geppetto names Pinocchio.
What should I call you?
Now, what should it be, huh?
Pietro. Paolo. Yes, you're made from pine wood. Made of pine.
You're a boy made out of pine.
But they don't need to do that. It's in the title.
So I call you Pinocchio. Pinocchio.
What name should I give to him? Let's see now. Yeah, how about Pinocchio?
That's it. I'll call him Pinocchio.
Pinocchio. Ah, Pinocchio. Yes.
Do they think we're gonna think he's gonna call him Steve or something? We already know his name. There wouldn't be anything wrong with Geppetto not naming Pinocchio. What's the worst case scenario?
Oh no. I haven't given him a name. How can I call to him when he doesn't even have a name?
Oh no, he's right. Pinocchio!
Yes, you, my boy, are Pinocchio.
Pinocchio! Wow! That's a big name!
Another soft rip-off of Disney's Pinocchio, except with one important change. The cat is a stoner.
It will grow into a money tree.
Ooh, yeah, cash, moolah, money. Just like magic.
They also doubled down on making Jiminy Cricket the most annoying motherfucker to grace this planet.
We don't have any time to waste.
Wait a minute. Are you sure about this? Where's my seatbelt?
If you think the original Jiminy is annoying, get ready to meet his deadbeat cousins.
Except for that long nose. What a hunker. Yeah, now you're talking. Hey, it looks like a kid. Can he dance? Whoa! Whoa!
But does Pinocchio turn into a real boy? In a brave subversion of the original story, Pinocchio doesn't turn into a real boy, and instead turns into a real old man.
And thank you for making me a real boy.
Looking like Elmer Fudd over here. 1 year after Pixar created magic with Toy Story, the first fully computer animated feature film, another toy came to life and fulfilled CGI's potential to give children nightmares. And if you think Pinocchio looks bad, you're lucky. Turn back now, exit the video, and live your life in peace if you don't want to see the worst thing ever made by a computer. Horrifying AI art has got nothing on this.
And I'm a lot more than your standard garden variety cricket. I'm a teller of truths.
Kill it. Kill it now. Now, I might be wrong, but I think this movie takes place in Italy.
My wife's the blushing, blooming rose of dawning, without distinct, without distinct.
Put a sock in it, Luigi.
Welcome, welcome, blessed morning sun. Welcome, welcome, you must be.
I don't know, I've never been there, so I'm guessing that this is exactly what it's like. Here, the Pinocchio problem gets its latest evolution, as the fox and the cat are people with features that resemble a fox and a cat, and not anthropomorphic creatures from hell, as they should be, but they keep making fox and cat noises for some reason.
Don't worry, son. I'll get your ball back.
While some titles perfectly describe the content of the movie, others forget the movie that they're titling. I have no idea why this is called Pinocchio's Revenge, because as far as I can tell, Pinocchio doesn't take revenge on anything. He kinda just sits there. They keep cutting back to the puppet and doing a spooky jump scare sound when he's just sitting there.
Ow! Oh, damn. Another nail gone.
Is he just a regular toy? Yeah, he's not gonna do anything. Oh my god. Finally! This is the last 5 minutes of the movie. I sat through a 90-minute movie called Pinocchio's Revenge, and Pinocchio only comes alive in the last 5 minutes!
Do you believe in evil? It's a job requirement in my business.
The New Adventures of Pinocchio is a loose sequel to the horrors you witnessed in 1996. This one pushes the envelope of creepiness even further. I genuinely think they're trying their hardest to give kids nightmares. I just have one question. Why fish with human faces? Why?
Pinocchio. But alas, this is not his story. This is the story of that important but overlooked character, Geppetto. That's me, Pinocchio's dad. Aren't there things you ever wondered about me?
Yeah, why do you look like the logo on a can of spaghetti sauce? We've had some great Geppettos over the years. Italian comic legend Nino Manfredi, Ukrainian Tarkovsky regular Nikolai Grinko, Christian Rub will always be my favorite Geppetto. His exaggerated joviality and mischievousness has always been among the funniest parts of the classic Pinocchio. I love how he takes such... fuck. Tom Hanks has always been my favorite Geppetto, but who is the sexiest Geppetto? Who is the Geppetto that I'd most like to call daddy? Number 1 is Bob Hoskins, then Tom Kenny, then Nikolai Grinko, then Nino Manfredi, then Tom Hanks. Geppetto is an experimental film that subverts the cinematic form by boldly asking hard-hitting questions like, what if Geppetto had his own movie? The movie opens with some civil unrest. What are they running away from? Pinocchio? CG Jiminy Cricket? The fucking fish people? No, they are running towards the grand opening of Geppetto's toy store. Because in this adaptation, he's no poor old lonely loser. He's the pinnacle of man, the most famous guy in town. He's Drew Carey. Drew Carey? Wait, isn't Geppetto supposed to be Italian?
Oh, children.
Buongiorno!
Oh yeah, never mind, he's Italian. Every kid wants a Geppetto toy, and Geppetto wants every kid.
Why is it the people who shouldn't have children who have children when someone like me clearly would be the best? None of them will ever be mine.
Unselfish, and someday you will be a real boy.
What in the...
Because what good is a real father without a real boy to come home to?
What?
In this movie, Drew Carey wanders in and out of scenes from Pinocchio while passive-aggressively narrating his struggles as a new dad.
Alright, so I didn't sleep so well. But who cares?
There's a musical number where a guy has a machine that can produce the perfect child. So he keeps on shooting out perfect children from a tube.
Daddy! Daddy! Daddy!
That Geppetto clearly does not want. I just hope refunds are accepted and the kids are okay. By the end of the movie, he learns that he doesn't want a perfect kid. He wants Pinocchio, knots and all.
Keep tight, and I will see you in the morning.
Dad?
What?
Can we switch beds?
What?
I'll sleep in your bed and you can sleep in mine.
Of course. Good night, Pinocchio.
Good night, Dad. Dad?
Yes, son.
Can I use your gun?
Of course.
AI, artificial intelligence, is the greatest collab ever, with concept art and story treatment by Stanley Kubrick, arguably the greatest filmmaker ever, and co-written and directed by Steven Spielberg, who's also pretty good at making movies. AI is one of the only interpretations of the Pinocchio story that feels necessary. Usually, remaking the story for a new generation is a terrible excuse for remakes, especially when the original story is already timeless. AI is one of the few great examples of that excuse being justified, quite literally incorporating modern fears and ideas into the Pinocchio framework. Following up The Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment proved himself one of the most convincing child actors ever. He's yet another incarnation of the puppet, or this time the artificially intelligent robot that longs to be a real boy, this time for the acceptance and love of his real human mother. Oh no, I'm not gonna cry, am I?
Mommy, if Pinocchio became a real boy and I become a real boy, can I come home? That's just a story. The story tells what happens.
Yeah, fuck. And then there's Jude Law as the Oompa Loompa sex robot. What's not to love?
And hopefully when audiences see these shots, they'll just say, hey, that's pretty cool.
Shot mostly on sound stages, AI pushes the boundaries of special effects with cameras that pre-visualize the computer-generated environment in camera.
And the system we set up was something that the cameraman could pick the camera up and do a handheld shot, walk around like you would as a documentary, find the camera angles anywhere you want. And you could always see the same view that he saw as though the buildings were actually there.
A technique that was reused in Lord of the Rings. In my Arnold video, I mentioned Stan Winston, the visual effects supervisor responsible for some of the most impressive visual effects in American cinema. According to Stan, AI was his most ambitious challenge, because it includes his most sophisticated and complex animatronic, which isn't the Velociraptors, the Alien Queen, or the fucking T-Rex, but this teddy bear. A 30-pound animatronic puppet, which has more points of motion than the T-Rex. By the time Takeshi Nakamura directed a Pinocchio adaptation, he had already worked on some of the best animated movies ever. This man was a key animator for Hayao Miyazaki's Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, and the animation director for Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira. A Tree of Palme is another entry in Nakamura's stacked resume, this time as director. Here, Pinocchio takes the form of Palme, a robot boy whose will to live was lost along with his surrogate mom. Palme is reanimated in a quest to return the egg of Tutu to the underground city of Tamas, along with a cast of one-dimensional anime characters who yell each other's names a lot, but I still forgot them by the end of the movie. Sometimes the world building is convoluted and boring. We learn about tribes and animals and technology and life forces and so many rules and names through boring dialogue scenes. No! Whenever the frame is inhabited by the characters who I've already seen 1,000 times in 1,000 better incarnations, I get bored, wanting to zoom out and see the environment around them instead. Which brings us to the great parts of the world building and the reigning strength of a Tree of Palme. Its environment, its wiggly worm creatures, its angelic synth score, its motherfucking atmosphere. The vibes are impeccable. And every once in a while they do something really inventive that reminds me why animation is cool as fuck. Then the characters start talking again. Anime Pinocchio is nowhere near as interesting as the trees around him, which is fitting because he becomes a tree. Even if Palme's goal is to become a real boy for the love and acceptance of this girl who reminds him of his mom, by the end he turns back into a tree instead, accepting his fate by returning to where he came from, as we all will. After directing, writing, and starring in Life is Beautiful, a comedy about the Holocaust and one of the most revered movies of all time, Italian director Roberto Benigni decided to approach another one of history's greatest tragedies, Pinocchio adaptations. So we've got a great director coming off the heels of one of the best movies ever. Woo! Looking good. Alright, he's teaming back up with his Life is Beautiful co-writer Vincenzo Cerami? What? And as the Blue Fairy, Benigni casts his fictional wife from Life is Beautiful and his real-life wife from real life, Nicoletta Braschi. Whoa! Looking good, looking good. And then for the titular role of Pinocchio, he casts himself. But you know what? I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. This man made Life is fucking Beautiful, and it's supposed to be a comedy anyways, okay? And Roberto Benigni is a great comedic performer, so he could totally pull off Pinocchio. So this movie might actually be funny. It could be funny. It could actually be funny. Well, it could be funny. It could even be good. But I will never know because I watched the dubbed version.
I can't stand the smell of it. It's not fair. No, no, no. Oh.
I must have a glass of milk. If I don't have one soon, I'll die.
Now I must have a PlayStation 5. If I don't have one soon, I'll die. The Mario movie has got nothing on the voice talent on display here, boasting the vocal performance of Whoopi Goldberg as Whoopi Goldberg playing the Blue Fairy, Howie Mandel as Spencer, and Malcolm McDowell as Scamboli. And let me tell you, ooh, I've never related to a fictional character more. You see, Scamboli is the mayor of Scamboville, and he hates children.
Do you know what bothers me most about children?
They don't pay taxes?
Worse. It's their whiny little voices I can't stand.
Hi, Daddy.
I don't hate children, but I do hate these children. To illustrate my point, I'll now play 5 seconds of footage from Pinocchio 3000.
Another flower saved from Mayor Scamboli's grass.
How do I put it? It's not just that they look and sound like my sleep paralysis goblin. No, that's not the end of it. These kids are a menace to society. These two kids damage public property to save a flower. This girl tortures this robot for her amusement.
Oh no! Don't! No!
Don't worry.
Trust me, it's wicked.
Please, no! Not again!
Okay, so you relate to Batman, Travis Bickle, and Patrick Bateman? More like Beta Man, Travis Beta, and Patrick Bateman. I relate to Scamboli from Pinocchio 3000. Scamboli's big plan is to turn all the children into robots.
I've turned them into robots.
To accomplish this, he builds a front, Pleasure Island. That way, the kids give in to their short-sighted and evil desire for theme park rides, and a dance number.
It's a world of fun, a world of games, where we can laugh and
I don't want to talk about the dance number. Thankfully, one of the rides turns the kids into robots, covering up whatever the hell they were before. To stop Scamboli's evil plan, virtuous venture, Geppetto emulates Frankenstein and builds a monster, the worst version of Pinocchio yet, who causes a city-wide blackout with the sheer amount of power he needs to become sentient. And then, like Captain America before him, Pinocchio 3000 emerges. Unfortunately, Pinocchio 3000 stops Scamboli by running the machine in reverse and turning all the robot kids back into humans. But wait, it didn't work. There's still robots. Try again. Please. Nothing makes my blood boil more than lazy kids content. Pinocchio 3000 isn't lazy. It's genetically engineered to be an abomination from the darkest depths of YouTube Kids. Most of the dialogue is just the characters making noises like... With a poster that looks like a fake movie, Bob Hoskins has been christened as Geppetto in a 2-hour and... Throughout the course of these adaptations, the fox and the cat have been reinterpreted the most. They've swapped from gender to gender, from animal that sounds like a human to human that sounds like an animal, to half human, half animal. Regardless, there is almost always an uncomfortable amount of overacting between the fox and the cat.
So what's your excuse?
Well, my...
Tickets,
Bye, Master Cherry.
He's got your eyes.
I know. I painted them myself.
At first I thought this line made no sense, because those are not the same eyes. But then I realized, oh yeah, those are the eyes of Bob Hoskins right there. A perfect match. Enzo Dalio's Pinocchio has got a beautiful and distinct style. Watercolor landscapes, fluid character movements, fun character design. Look at the way Pinocchio jumps around the town. So much fun! What is this? A good movie? It isn't a carbon copy of the book with a cool art style, right? It isn't what every Pinocchio movie has been doing up to this point, except this one has a cool art style, right? I said earlier that the potential for Pinocchio has been realized in every form. Most of that potential is just the book. They just redo the book again and again and again.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia.
There is, hold on, let me count in my head. 1, 2, 5, 6. Yeah, one good part of this movie. There's a golden retriever in it, and he looks happy, blissfully unaware of the computer-generated atrocities that have been animated around him. The film begins with these kids gathered around, amazed that wood fell from a tree. But don't worry guys, this man has come to take it away. No need to thank him.
Is Papa.
Papa.
What a crazy guy. What if I give you my jacket?
All right then. But it's only because I'm a good person.
The Pinocchio Korean TV drama is almost as insane as I am right now. I've never seen a story with such frenetic twists and turns. Whenever you think you know where the story is going, they hit you from the sidelines into an unexpected direction. Let me show you. The first episode starts in a classroom with 2 missing students. One of them is on a game show that the class is watching, and the other one is missing because he's a delinquent. But then it turns out that he's also on the game show. The reason why he's on the game show is because he's the 32nd best student in the school.
전교 34등이라고 하셨잖아요. 그 정도면 수재 맞습니다.
근데 전교생이 34명입니다.
네? 전교생이 34명이면 그럼
저 전교 꼴찌입니다.
But then, it turns out he was only pretending to be stupid and got bad grades at school all these years so that he could make an ultimate comeback on a game show that his love interest would be watching, all in the goal of impressing her. The story continues like this, with sudden flashbacks, character reveals, and betrayals every minute or so. Characters you thought were unimportant become the main antagonist. Characters you thought were new characters become ones you've already seen. Characters die, turn out to be alive, then die again. More writers' rooms should have cocaine as a complimentary snack. It makes TV shows a lot of fun. While the Pinocchio Korean TV show doesn't contain any of the imagery or story beats of the Pinocchio story, it instead explores one of its themes: dishonesty and the consequences of a lie. The main character also has Pinocchio syndrome, meaning anytime she tells a lie she hiccups, which makes for a fun narrative device. This is fun, actually. I actually really enjoyed this. In 2019, Pinocchio goes back to his roots and is once again a fever dream. Also, Roberto Benigni is back, and this time with more age-appropriate casting as Geppetto. And I will say he is high on the list. I feel bad for any parent who took their kids to see Pinocchio and sat through this movie. The imagery in this is some extremely flammable nightmare fuel. This is the Pinocchio problem in its final form. How do you turn a living puppet and a bunch of anthropomorphic animals into something that isn't creepy? You don't. You make them as creepy as possible. When Walt Disney adapted Pinocchio, he remarked that it was the perfect story to tell in the animated format, since it'd be impossible to convincingly tell most of the story in live action. But that was in the 40s, and that is now no longer the case. We have reached the point where movies are no longer limited by technology. We can create anything. The question is no longer can we do it, but is now should we do it? The worst part of this movie isn't the horrifying prosthetics and special effects, which are, by the way, incredibly well done and worth appreciating. It's that the movie has no filter to distinguish what is horrifying from what is charming. The music will try to convince you that what you're seeing is cute with this gentle fairy tale tune while you're looking at the most terrifying creature ever. They brought the fish with the human face back. In most Pinocchio movies, Pleasure Island is this fantastical theme park where kids can partake in the most terrible temptations. They drink booze, smoke stogies, sometimes even play pool. But in this movie, Pleasure Island is just a park. Like a regular park. This depicts the worst temptation that children should never indulge in: playing outside.
You may have heard that once upon a time, a man named Geppetto carved a puppet out of wood. But then, people started making up some silly stories about growing noses and whatnot. Tell me, have you ever seen a nose grow right in front of you?
What is there to say about Pinocchio, a true story, that hasn't already been said? Nothing.
Taking on a treasured classic as Disney's Pinocchio, it's an incredibly rich opportunity to revisit and go deeper.
The promotional material for Disney's live-action remake of Pinocchio is really weird. It's just a 10-second clip of Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis going, "Ha ha, fuck you, we did it all for the money." The worst thing about Disney's Pinocchio remake is that it's not that bad. Maybe it's just because my perception of what makes a good movie has been destroyed after seeing so much crap. but this movie is actually interesting. It made me realize what the appeal really is for these live-action remakes. What keeps you hooked is a simple question. How are they going to fuck up this next scene? Seeing each scene from the 1940s Pinocchio transformed into a CG zombie was consistently engaging. Look, it's the scene where he meets Honest John, but worse in every way. Look, it's the scene where Pinocchio's dancing, but worse in every way. Where this movie is especially terrible is when it dares to try anything new. Every change they make to the original Pinocchio makes for a worse movie. They make Pinocchio a character with zero flaws. Instead of giving into temptation on Pleasure Island, he already has a perfect moral compass. So then why does he turn into a donkey? There is no rhyme or reason in the world of Disney live-action remakes. This is a soulless cash grab. Nothing more to say. Today, Pinocchio has been reborn for the last time. For 15 years, Guillermo del Toro has been trying to make a Pinocchio movie, and we are so fucking lucky that it finally got made. From the first frame to the last, the most immediate observation you can make at any point throughout the movie is its visceral beauty. Just looking at the detail and artistry that went into each frame is enthralling. The fucking character design, set design, every facet of the animation, stop motion, literally allows puppets to come to life, and now for the first time since 1940, Pinocchio is really alive. The movie is just as visually impressive and narratively creative as the Disney classic. Unlike most of these movies, it pays homage to the book while not being indebted to it by copying every beat, interpreting the source material in a fresh way by subverting its message entirely.
It subverts the moral underpinnings of the original fable, which is, in order to be a real boy, you gotta change, and you gotta become flesh and blood, and you gotta become. This is about becoming a real boy by acting, a real human, I would say, by acting like a real human. Period.
In this version, being a real boy doesn't mean literally turning into a real boy, as his personality makes abundantly clear. He's already a boy. When I say that Pinocchio has been reborn for the last time, I don't mean that this is the end for Pinocchio. There's another one being released in a few months, but that I'm guessing that this is the last time his body will be truly animated, the closest to a living, breathing puppet since the 40s. In my opinion, in most Pinocchio movies, Pinocchio doesn't really come to life. His strings are still intact, but now they've finally been removed, and Pinocchio is free. We will live and die, but Pinocchio is forever. But for me, Pinocchio dies right here.